Vitamin D is a good one. It's generally good for your overall health, your immune system. Vitamin C is also good because it's going to repair your skin. It's
Okay.
going to reduce inflammation. It's going to help you produce collagen. And it's also almost like an antihistamine. So it can help with
Okay.
itching. I tell my clients, I'm like, hey, before we even like identify triggers and eliminate stuff, I'm like, can we increase your whole foods and reduce packaged and processed foods? Because there's a
Okay.
lot of crap in processed foods, right? The
Absolutely.
dyes, the chemicals to keep it on a shelf longer, preservatives, right?
Welcome to the Skin Deep Podcast, everyone. My name is Makisha, your host of the Skin Deep Podcast, where we talk about everything that has to do with your skin, well-being, and just getting you on the right track for your skincare. Today, I have an amazing guest with me. His name is Kishok, and I found him on social media, and I'm so excited to have this conversation with him. So, welcome to the Skin Deep Podcast, Kishok. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me, Makisha. I appreciate the time, and yeah, I'm excited to jump in.
Thank you for being here. It's such a thing that I always find when I look on social media and I see different people that are, on their path when it comes to helping people with eczema. And when I saw your videos, I was like, oh my gosh. I was so excited because you're taking a different approach to eczema and helping people heal their eczema. So I want to know, what brought you into this industry? What kind of brought you to this path, and get us to know about more about you.
Yeah, so it's been a long journey to say. So with my eczema, I had it since a kid, which got me
Okay.
into the industry. So I've had as a kid, and we went through different treatment options, and the conventional one that steroid creams.
Yeah.
Let's take some medications, let's suppress it. So that was going on for the better part of like 15, 20 years.
Oh my
And in
gosh.
between all of that, my parents would try to take me to alternative medicine just to see if we
Okay.
can not rely on medication so much. So, I've tried a lot of different treatments out there. And ultimately, what led me to this industry was when I went through withdrawal symptoms. So,
Yes.
after using steroids for 10, 15 years, you come off of it. Everybody reacts differently, but a lot of them do go through withdrawal symptoms. So, for
Yes.
myself, I went through that, had to take time off work and school. It was a complete roller coaster of a monster. So, ever since then, I was just like, I want to find a way to manage it. I'm coming off these medications, I don't want to do anything with it anymore. I don't want to deal with it.
Mm.
So I started experimenting on myself. I'm like, with the premise that the body can heal. I think we forget that.
Yes.
To take a small example, when we do get a cut or we twist our ankle, we can heal.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm sure I can do something to at least manage my eczema, even if I don't cure it or heal it. I
Yes.
know I can bring it to a place where like it's manageable. So with that premise, I'm like, let me experiment. I tried different diets, threw random supplements at myself.
Yeah.
Um, and even in that journey, I went to acupuncture, naturopaths,
Okay.
just to help me learn one thing from somebody. And then at
Yes.
the end of it, I did get my skin to a good place where my sleep isn't as impacted. I'm not itching. My redness decreased. My
Yeah.
dryness, oozing, all of it was almost gone. So I was like, that led me on this passion of like, I feel I can help people to get at least 50% to where I've been,
Yes.
if not more. And I was like, let me explore this. And I went back to school for holistic nutrition. I got
Okay.
certified, and I've been helping people for the last 2 years, just trying to manage and clear their skin.
That is amazing. And
Yeah.
it's so crazy how it's like we all have the same kind of backstory. It's like we had eczema, there's something going on, and then we're like, listen, we need to fix this. Like we can't just sit there and have that same rat race cycle of like using steroids and it's like, here's the next one, it's stronger. Here's the
Exactly.
next one, it's strong. And then
Yeah.
before you know it, I always laugh about it. It's kind of sick though, but I always laugh about it. I'm like, it's at a point in time where you're just like gonna go to the gas station and just like pick up some gas there because that's how bad it is. You know what I mean? Like the steroids are so strong to the point where it's it's like, to me, I think of it as a gasoline because you're just using it. You run out, you go and get some more. You run out, you go and get some more. I know, such a sick analogy, but I
No,
sit
it's
there and
true.
think about it because it's just like steroids are really that bad. Like when you think about what it really does to you, yeah, it can give you this momentary kind of relaxation of like,
Mhm.
okay, something's soothing me. But when
Yeah.
you think of like all of the post issues that you get with it after and what it's actually doing to your skin in the moment of using it, you have to ask yourself, like, what in the world is making us sit there and think that steroids are good for us or why we
Yeah.
have to keep on using it?
Yeah.
So I think it's true that we get that feeling of like, I can't keep using this. And then when we stop using it, we get that like, again, like you
Yeah.
said, that whole rejection of your body is like,
Yeah.
I don't have this anymore. What the heck? Why am I going through this? And then it just goes through that exploding after the fact too.
Yeah. No, exactly. You said it right. And I think it's the lack of education, at least
Yeah.
for us who are going through it early on, because, I don't know what research has been done on long-term effects. And then our healthcare practitioners don't really teach us how to manage it. The
Yes.
creams are meant for like short term, but
Yeah.
then we get stuck in this thing where it's short term, but we use it for a long term.
Literally. Yes.
We have no options, and then, we get screwed.
Well, to your point with what you're saying, like they say it's short term, but
Yeah.
then when you look at it, when you're done using that bottle, and before you even finish using the bottle, you're like, oh, I need a new prescription. It's not
Mhm.
working. It's not strong enough. Let me go get another refill. And before you
Yeah.
know it, like I remember one of my doctors gave me a refill of 10. And in my head, I
Oh,
was
yeah.
like, why do I need 10 refills? Like, I thought this is a one and done situation. And when I
Yeah.
looked at it, I was getting it almost every month. Every month, sometimes twice a month, because before I even got to the end of the bottle or the jar, I was like, it's not strong enough or it's not doing anything. Maybe it's not,
Yeah.
it's oxidized, it's not fresh enough.
Absolutely.
Let me go get a next batch. And then before you know, you kind of think you're an addict. We're an actual addict to these prescriptions. And it's just strictly because, like, yeah, it's nulled down. Your body's just like, oh my gosh, I need another one. And
Mhm.
then before you know it, you're like, I had a pantry full of them. And some of them weren't even
Yeah.
finished. And it was just like, oh
Yeah.
gosh, like, what does that look like?
Yeah. Yeah. It's brutal.
Yeah, it's definitely brutal. But I love that
Yeah.
you did the nutritional way from it because unfortunately, when I was growing up, I didn't really understand the nutrition. I didn't really get
Mhm.
told, hey, stop eating these certain things. It was more so my doctor told me to put Crisco on my skin. And he was like, just put Crisco on your skin, it's going to be fine. And I was like, Crisco. And I didn't know what Crisco was until I found it in the grocery store. And then I was like, this guy told me to put butter on my skin.
Did he tell you to saran wrap it as well?
Yeah, literally, he told me to put the Crisco on, put the Saran wrap, and then just put cotton clothes on. And in my head, I was like, "Am I baking
What is this?
myself for like a bread tomorrow or something like that? Like, what are we
Yeah.
doing here? I don't understand." So, like, did someone tell you to do the same thing?
Yeah, my doctor as well. He actually said apply the medication and saran wrap it so like it's moisturized, locks it in, and you don't spread it on your bedding when you sleep and
Yes.
your clothes.
Yes.
No, when I did it a couple times, I'm just like, this doesn't feel right. This
No.
felt very
You're like,
fake.
like it
Yeah.
was really weird. I was like, why am I like wrapping myself like, first of all, I'm not going on a tanning bed, that's a little bit different. I'm not trying to like lose weight because that's a different technique, when it comes to like
Correct.
losing stomach weight and so forth. They would saran wrap themselves and go to
Yeah.
sleep. But I was just like, this is weird. Like I'm buttering myself up and then I'm putting the saran wrap and then I'm going to my bed and I'm cooked up. Like this is so weird.
The things we
So
had to
yeah,
do, right?
yeah, like I think at that point they really didn't know what they were talking about. They were just like, "Hey, let's just try anything."
Just try
And I
anything.
get the whole idea of like not spreading it to your clothing and your bed sheets because it is true. Like I would feel like I had to change my bed sheets almost every other day or every
Yeah.
couple of days just because I felt like I was easing or oozing into my bed sheets and it just felt really weird. I love fresh bed sheets now. Like my daughter thinks I'm like crazy because I'm like, "Fresh bed sheets now."
It feels
Stat.
nice. It feels nice. Right? So.
It is kind of weird, but like I said, I love that you went down the nutritional path because I feel
Mhm.
like it's the key component. It really is the key. So my big question to you is,
Yeah.
what are the major foods that you're finding are the triggers to people's eczema?
Ooh, so aside from what people are generally allergic to, like, shellfish and nuts,
Yes.
it really depends. And what I try to tell my clients is like, if you know your allergies, like, stick with it. We won't eat it. But I tell my clients, I'm like, hey, before we even like identify triggers and eliminate stuff, I'm like, can we increase your whole foods and reduce packaged and processed foods? Because
Got
there's a
it.
lot of crap in processed foods, right? The
Absolutely.
dyes, the chemicals to keep it on the shelf
Preserved.
longer, preservatives, right? So unfortunately, it's very common in our day-to-day lives. It's everywhere. So I feel like those make you react more, cause more inflammation, which then causes you to react to other foods, right? So I say, let's cut those out. Let's reduce our fast food intake. Have it once in a while, but like don't rely on it. As well as like those quick frozen meals. Those
Yes.
are horrible. I think once in a while it's okay not to shame it because it is
Yeah,
we are
like it's
living in
not
like a
bad
fast-paced life.
entirely.
Right, but if you have it too much when you're flared up, it's gonna just aggravate it more. And
Yes.
then what we do is we find like eggs and milk and we try to cut those out when we should be really cutting out all this, pop and candy, stuff
Yes.
with food coloring, because there's research on food coloring aggravating eczema and itching. So
Yeah.
it's like, let's just, reduce those. And then I tell my clients, once we've gotten into a place where you are eating more whole foods, more protein, and healthy fats, I then look at their diet and say, hey, I think now it's time to take out eggs temporarily and let's see, reintroduce it. Let's take out milk, temporarily reintroduce it. Or even like, let's switch the source. Can we get more organic eggs that are,
Yeah.
the chickens are raised on a better feed? Even the milk, can we get organic milk where the cows are treated differently, they eat differently? Because they won't react as much to those types when it's a little bit more raised humanely.
Yes.
So high level, before I tell people to cut stuff out and identify triggers, I'm like, let's just get more whole foods in. Let's just reduce the stuff we know we shouldn't be eating, and then let's dive into something more specific.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that because I've noticed myself, and this is, actually posted this on the previous episodes, but even on social
Yeah.
media, that I was on this whole probiotic kind of thing, and I was like, okay, I want to make sure that I'm eating well and so forth. I
Mm,
cut out all the major different sugars. I cut out
yeah.
all the things that were really triggering me. I wasn't really a person of processed foods except for, and I'll tell that story in a moment.
Yeah.
So I started eating a lot of fermented foods. So I
Okay.
was eating fermented foods. I was like, yeah, perfect, perfect, amazing fermented foods. And then I realized I was getting histamine. And I was like,
Ooh,
what the heck is that?
too much
I don't
fermented.
understand. I thought I was doing a great job. Yeah, because I was overeating on those
Exactly.
fermented foods and
Yeah.
not realizing they were a trigger. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, Makisha, like this is crazy. Like this is how you full blown activated your eczema because you were overindulging on fermented foods. So it's true, like even though we get rid of the processed food, we get rid of the things that are actually really obviously just not good. It's not even food at that point. It's just a
Exactly.
whole bag of chemicals.
Yeah.
It is still the good foods that we have to be really mindful of that can also be a trigger for histamine, but triggering things that lead down to eczema. So it
Exactly.
was pretty messed up when I realized I was like, kimchi, morning, afternoon.
Oh no.
And I was going crazy. I was like so messed up.
Yeah, yeah. And one of my clients, like he ate pretty healthy, and I never did a dietary with him early on. And then like the second month, I'm like, okay, something's not right. So I took a look at his dietary. I'm like, send me a 7-day diary of what you've been eating. And I
Yes.
found that he was having bananas and one more food like 2 times a day. And I was like, bananas are high in histamine.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
one more food. So I'm like, hey, let's cut back on the banana, have it every other day. Let's see what happens. So, exactly like you said, let's cut out the processed stuff first, but then you can eat healthy, but then you can
Yes.
eat like, not to say too healthy, but you can eat healthy to a point where you don't even know what's triggering you. You can overindulge. So it's always good to, cycle stuff, try different foods, and not limit yourself.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Like,
Yeah.
I was like an addict because I was like, it's probiotic. Eat
Yeah.
the kimchi. Ate it with the breakfast. Had a
Yeah.
little dabble with my lunch. Had a little dabble with my dinner. And then I was like, yo, this is like really hot. Like, what's
Yeah.
going on? I was like, my arms were itching
Oh
and everything.
no.
I
Yeah.
blew up. Like, it again, don't get me
Totally.
wrong. I had stress that was kind of adding
Of
to the
course.
situation. So I know it
Mm.
was like the mind to the gut, but it was like the food. I had the bananas. I had it with my
Oh, okay.
smoothie. Then I had the kimchi. And it was just like, I don't understand. Scratch, scratch. What's going
Yeah.
on? And then when I looked deeper into like histamine triggering foods, I was like, okay, so that whole list, like I was indulging in all of that. Like, what the heck is wrong with me? Like, when you took the health factor to the next level, that it became unhealthy.
100%.
And
Yeah.
that's where I think some people need to understand too. Like, they are healthy, they are doing all the great things, checking off the box, but it's like you took healthy and then you flapped it onto the other side of itself and it became unhealthy. And then now I had to literally work my way back. And I want to get that advice from you too, is that
Mhm.
I literally stuck to the same food for my breakfast, for my
Mhm.
dinner, for like 2 solid 3 months until everything calmed down and went back to normal. And then
Nice.
it's like I started implementing back into my diet one at a time
Okay.
certain foods so that I can kind of see what my body liked and what I didn't like. I stayed away from
Yeah.
kimchi. I was like, forget that. No fermented foods ever. So
You can have it once a week. It's okay.
I'm afraid.
Okay. Fair. Fair.
So, how do you feel about that in terms of having that same exact food for a certain period of time just to make
Mhm.
sure that we're one healing the gut or we can see what the triggers are and to calm the body down? What do you suggest with that?
I like that approach. In terms of the same food, like I would still get my clients to mix it up and myself. Like, sure, the raw
Yes.
ingredients are like chicken and fish, but just make it look different, make it taste different, so you can stick to it long term. If you're just gonna have chicken, rice, and vegetables every day, like you will get bored of it.
Yes.
Some people can do it. If you can, great. But based off my clients, I tell them based off their preference, I'll tell them what to do and like, hey, if you need something more flavorful, here is like a list of recipes, or I'll create them a meal plan. But
Yes.
it's really important to stick to a routine of like, hey, I'm gonna just stick to these whole foods for now, let my skin calm down, and then reintroduce one thing, see if I flare up. And sometimes it's not even the food. It could be just, like you said, stress that week of like,
Yes.
hey, I have a big exam coming up, or I have a big presentation, or something going on in life. So a lot of times we try to connect it to food to make it simple on our brains, but
Yes.
we don't look at like, hey, could this event have added to my stress and flare up?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that is like right on the buzzer. I knew stress had to do with it. I was going through major like things that I had to for my business.
Mhm.
So it was like heightened stress, but then again, the kimchi episode, and that's what I'm gonna call it, the
Just
kimchi
added.
episode.
Right.
That what triggered it to the like the
Mhm.
next level of it. And again, eating a lot of bananas because I love bananas. They just taste so great.
Okay.
But again, I was overindulging on that at the same
Mhm.
time. So it's true. Like, I feel like it was a combination of the two, but
Yeah.
I knew for sure that diet really had something to do with it. And you're right. Like, I was bored of the meals. Like, I have basically four different meals and I was interplaying at the same time, but I had to do it so that I could just regulate myself,
Yeah.
focus. It was boring as heck, don't get me wrong. I was just like, oh my gosh, this feels like prison food, but I
Yeah.
still try to have fun with it, but
Yeah.
it's like that was the best way for me to see what I was doing to myself, what was I good for myself, and then slowly
Mhm.
interject or put in different things just so then that way I
Yeah.
could see how my gut was reacting to it. But it
Yeah.
is true. A lot of people think, yeah, food is it, but it most of the time is. But like again, they underestimate the stress that they're going through to actually activate their eczema as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, well said.
Yeah. So now I notice quite a bit on your social media that you talk about supplements, and I find we're in a supplement craze. as
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
probably seen online, everyone's like supplements, and it's just like, are you eating more food or less supplements? Like, is
Yeah.
there a balance between the two? Because I looked at what I was taking for my supplements and I
Mhm.
realized, yeah, I take quite a bit, but they are very specific to what they're doing. So I guess, there's like this idea, like I said, everyone's on this supplement craze. Everyone wants to have more supplements. But what
Mhm.
is your thought and opinions about supplementation?
Ooh, there's a balance to it. I myself was a part of the supplement craze. I'm like, I have drawers filled with half bottle supplements. Like I've a lot sitting, but yeah, that's a part of the journey. You have to kind of go through it,
Yeah.
unless you have a coach or someone to tell you like you don't need that many.
Yes.
Supplements are great for, kind of filling the gaps or like to be
Yeah.
targeted. I see a lot of people taking multivitamins for eczema. I personally don't think it helps because for
Yeah.
eczema, you are deficient in a couple of different things, and
Yes.
multivitamins just give you like so little that it won't even make an effect on you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And for you to say probiotics, like, there's a whole probiotic craze as well, like take the supplement. So it's okay to do it temporary, to get you to where your body needs to be, but to be on it for long term,
Yeah.
that's not the goal. Like ultimately, we want to come off of supplements, other than maybe vitamin D if you live in an area with low sunlight. But
Yes.
ultimately, you don't want to be on it forever, just like, steroids.
Yes.
And with my clients, I use it in a very targeted manner. It's like if they are itching, I'll find one or two supplements max to just aid them to get their symptoms down, and then do that with food. And even though it's supplement, it's to supplement that one thing that you're missing or you can't get, and then it's to come off of it as your body heals.
Yeah, and it's true. Like I look at the lineup of my bottles, and I was like, "Listen, Nikisha, it's like five, okay, three, okay, two." Like
And the
I'm doing a
money.
countdown of the bottles of like the pills that I have, and it's like it's the core things that I know I need because again, being African American, there's certain things that we kind of lack, such as like the vitamin D and the
Mhm.
iron, sometimes because of the anemic
Yeah,
and so forth. So there's certain things that I have to take that I know
super specific.
I I would love to get it from food, but we know
Yeah.
sometimes the food quality is getting, it's
Yeah.
it's compromised in some ways. So,
Yeah.
and again, because of the whole kimchi episode, I was like, okay, let's get some quercetin and throw that in there
Okay.
too.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
there's there's a few in there. And then I realized like eventually my skin was going down and I was like, okay, things are, calming down.
Mhm.
And the thing that I find what I liked about taking more supplements versus the typical what doctors will give people, which is antihistamines,
Yeah.
I find that's where that right balance comes into play, or that's the right approach. What do
Yeah.
you think about that?
Yeah, antihistamines, I still have it as an emergency just in
Yes.
case, like for those one-off situations. But yeah, antihistamines, it does deplete certain minerals and vitamins the longer you take it.
Yes.
And I know, and don't quote me on it. I think like third class generation, like third generation antihistamines, they're not good for your brain.
Oh,
Um,
shoot.
so there's certain ones that we need to be mindful of. And like you
Yes.
said, quercetin supplements, they are helpful to reduce itching, to act as a natural antihistamine, vitamin C, things like that. So
Yes.
only drawback is it doesn't work as fast as an antihistamine. So you need a time to build it up into your body.
Yes.
But I think there's a good balance of like, let's use it to get the itching down, the inflammation down, and then, come off of it, transition to food, and then have a balance that way.
They, that's an amazing point that you said because I had Benadryl as like
Oh,
and
okay.
again I don't want to
Right.
drop names, I already did too late, but it's true I did have one of them as like an emergency kind of
Yeah.
case because I realized when I was taking quercetin it was like it was a slow acting. I was like this is not gonna take away the
Yeah.
itching
I get
and
it.
the hot neck and everything like that right now. So that's why I took the antihistamines. So it's true that you kind of almost have to have it as like a backup emergency
Yeah.
situation, but then you want to use that as to build up the body in terms of reducing the histamine release. Is that what you were saying?
Essentially, yeah. And um, citrus foods are typically high in quercetin,
Yes.
but for myself, and they say citrus foods can aggravate eczema because it's a little bit
Yeah.
more acidic. And
Yes.
even for myself, I'm not drawn to oranges as I would be.
Yeah.
Like I just don't crave them. So I'm like, okay, maybe my body's telling me something that I don't need it. So for
Yes.
me, I get vitamin C in other ways. I try to get quercetin in other ways. And
Yes.
then on top of it with supplements. Yeah, and with supplements in general, none of them will work within a week or two, very rarely. It
Yes.
does take a couple months, but it works faster when you eat right. Because
Exactly.
if if your diet is not the best, the supplement can only do so much, you know? So when you combine
Yes.
it with nutrition and then you give targeted supplements, like you will see results a lot faster.
Yeah, no, I think that you hit that on the spot. I feel like it's again, I always tell people, even though I own a skincare brand, I'm not out here telling people, put on this butter and you have no eczema. Like, it's
Yeah,
just like, it doesn't make any sense. So when I see other companies are doing that, I'm like, stop lying to people. Like, I lived through eczema, so I know it's like a three-part, puzzle.
exactly.
It's your
Exactly.
food, it's your mental history, like your mental capacity, but it also is what you're using on your skin. So if you're
Yeah.
using like some bad soap detergent, let me tell you, you're going to get some eczema issues.
Oh yeah.
If you're using like skincare products that have like all of this fragrances, it's going to
Fragrance.
have
Yep.
some issues. So it's like
Exactly.
a three-part kind of puzzle. So when I look at the nutrition, it's like the foundation, it's the core,
Yes.
just like what you're saying. So you can't be sitting there having supplements. You're like, oh, this is great, but let me go and get a burger. Like
Exactly.
it's just not gonna
100%.
work out for you,
Yeah.
kid. You gotta
Yeah.
you gotta look at it the right way. So it's so true that you have to make sure that I look at it like a basket. Like if you have the right food, it's like the nice woven basket, and then when you
Mhm.
have the supplements, it kind of fills in the basket in those other little parts there. So then that
Yeah.
way you just have like this nice woven basket that's all put together. So I did notice the quercetin, like you said, it wasn't some like, oh, it was an immediate fix. It did
Yeah.
take some time for it to actually work. So that's why I was like, okay, let me just take a swing of this like antihistamine
Yeah.
for a moment there just to kind of calm down the flares that I was having. So I
Mhm.
do find that that's what people need to understand, that the supplements take some time, but it's not
Yeah.
the core. It's just like that, like you said, that missing link there.
Yeah, yeah. And even antihistamines, like I know there's a whole movement of like no medications and things like that, but it's okay to like come off of it slowly just so you're a lot more comfortable in your journey. So like, take antihistamines when you need it so you can get through the day, but also work on your nutrition and the supplement and your mental health because you can go cold turkey. Some people can power through, but like if you are struggling, you feel
Yes.
like the journey's long and drawn out, it's okay to take that antihistamine to get that sleep and then, take a break from it and then, kind of work your way down. So I think it's
Hmm.
important to let people know like, hey, it's okay to take these things temporarily to, get you through as you work on your long-term plan. And then,
Yes.
a year or two from now, you won't even need antihistamines, so.
Yes, yes. it is true. Like I don't take over the counter prescriptions in terms of like Advil or any of those types
Yeah.
of things. Just because my body just doesn't need it.
Yeah,
It's just
exactly.
that I find in this category when it came to the itching, I found like, okay, yeah, I have to take some kind of antihistamine just for that. And I found it's what kind of helped me be able to sleep because otherwise having high histamine issues,
Yeah, it
I'm
is.
sorry, it is a beast at nightkime. It just
Yeah,
comes for you like a
yeah.
something in the dark, like goosebumps. Like,
I hear you.
yeah, so it's just like what the heck. So, with that being said, so you put people on like a plan so then that way they have an understanding of what the long-term goal is, what they're doing short term, and so forth. Talk to me about that long-term plan so that people kind of know exactly how they can get those services from you to see how they can kind of overcome this. Because again, some people want to do it cold turkey, do it themselves, but it's a
Mhm.
long process if you don't know what you're doing. So kind of
Yeah.
give us some insight of how you help them long term.
Yeah, so to start, I kind of go through a full health history of like, hey, tell me everything that, went on with your life, whether it's antibiotics, medications, even like trauma, because that
Yes.
does play into a factor if you yourself haven't processed it, you didn't, you don't feel comfortable, like it's stored
Yeah.
in your body. So I get a full health history, even what other alternative medication you've tried, just so I know like the things you've done, your story. And then after I do that, I basically will write a plan for them. I'm like, hey, for the next 30 days, we're gonna do, ABC. So I'll give them max 1 to 3 supplements. I don't do more than that because it's a lot to
Yeah.
follow and remember. On top of the pain we're in with eczema, on top of the itching, if I tell someone take 10 supplements,
Yeah.
it's not sustainable,
Like
and
myself.
right? It's not sustainable, and it's harder for them to keep up on top of the mental effort that they're already doing to maintain eczema. So, one to
Yes.
three supplements max. And then I also give them a meal plan. Some people will say, I want a 7 day meal plan, and I'll
Okay.
build it out for them. Some people say, just give me a list, I'll pick and choose. So,
Yes.
based off their preference, I'll give them foods that I recommend. And then yeah, it's every month we kind of check in of like, hey, how is your skin doing? What can I change? What can I tweak? So I give them the plan,
Yes.
and we actually check in on a weekly basis, but I
Okay.
change the plan on a monthly basis because you're not going to see changes right away.
Yeah.
So I let the protocol work. We check in on a weekly basis. Where do you see things that are working? Where are you struggling with? And then that will kind of reinforce like, hey, slow habits. The protocol does take time. And as I'm there with them for the 3 to 6 month duration, they're also building up themselves and the confidence to, create a long-term plan. And then at the end of the protocol, they're pretty much on their way of like maintaining what they've already done, which is, eating more whole foods, taking 1 or 2 supplements, and really the lifestyle stuff of like, what can I do to help my mental health? What can I do to slow down, pace myself, which is really what will keep your eczema away. Yeah.
And do you find like you add on different supplements each month that target maybe a different thing? Because I saw one of your posts, which I was so happy about, where you were saying, different times is when you might have to use a different supplement at a different time when you're recovering and healing.
Yeah, so exactly. So every month, and it's not always every month, sometimes it can be
Yes.
longer, but
Yes.
if their gut health is really the thing that's impacting, then I would focus on that. And then as their gut health improves, they're like, hey, Kishok, like, I'm really struggling with itching. That's my biggest monkey on my back. That's my
Yeah.
biggest beast. Can you help me with that? So then I'll help them with that while the gut health is like working on in the background.
Okay.
I'll then, the main supplement for that next couple months will be quercetin, things to help with their itching, and then
Okay.
that's how we kind of progress through it. So it really depends on the person, what stage they're in, and like what's their biggest problem.
Okay.
Because that way, when I focus on what's their biggest problem, they'll actually feel more relief when I get them through that, and then
Yes.
that motivates them to like, hey, I've got through this. Let me now continue the other things.
Yeah, because we are the case of like we want to see some kind of change or some kind of like prize, and we're like, oh,
Yeah.
perfect. There's some kind of goal that we reach, and let me go to the next one. So if they don't see anything, they're like, God, like you're giving me 5 more pills, and nothing's happening. So we have to see some kind of like, okay, there is some kind of progress here,
Exactly.
so we can keep going. And it is true, like once you kind of establish that 30 day, you'll see some kind of benefits. You'll see the changes in the skin, and then you go to the next one. So
Yeah.
do you find there's like a typical time frame of how people heal? Like, do you find people heal usually within 3 months or 6 months, or how do you find that?
Yeah. And to use the word healing, I guess, loosely, it's just, it really depends. So I try to challenge my clients. I'm like, what does healed look like to you? Like,
Yes,
are you
true.
looking for perfect, no red skin, no itching? Or is it for you like to a point where your sleep is, you get 8 hours of sleep, you're not itching as much? Because for me, that was it. Like, I just want my sleep. The
Yes.
dry skin wasn't really a big deal for me. You could apply some creams and oils. I just wanted the itching and the sleep to go away. So that
Yeah.
was my healed. So I asked my clients, I'm like, what would make you happy so I can understand like, hey, because to tell yourself that you'll be fully healed, I think you're hurting yourself and your expectations because eczema can come back, unfortunately, if
Yeah.
you don't manage it. To think that it's gonna go away forever, you're gonna set yourself up for failure. So I tell my clients, hey, the next 6 months, let's work on this. You'll be in a good spot where you've managed this so well that it's almost gone. And
Yeah.
that you're happy with that.
Yeah, it's almost like that 80-20, 90-10, 70-30 kind
Exactly.
of thing there because it is true. Like I've never had this kind of eczema episode in 20 years, like since I
Right.
was younger, where I was like
Yeah.
on the steroids for so long. And then, here and there would flare up on my hand because I'm always very active with my hands and so forth.
Right.
But then when it was like all over my body, I was like, no, there's a problem here. And it's
Something
not
isn't
to say
right.
that you'll ever get rid of eczema. It can come back. And when it does
Yeah.
come back, it might come back in a small way, a very
Yeah.
large way. Again, it just depends on the situation for everybody. And,
Yeah.
for me, I was just like, I never want to tell myself, oh, you're cured of
Yeah.
eczema. No, I knew that it wasn't as strong as symptoms as it was when I was younger. But when it did, it was just like, okay, there's a serious issue, Mikisha, like
Yeah.
obviously the situation. So I feel a lot of people need to remember that, there's so many people that had bad, bad eczema. And when it
Yeah.
comes back, they're like, oh my God, I thought it was never going to come back again. It does come back.
Yeah.
It just depends on the situation. So it's kind of true. You can't heal it completely. You can monitor it and manage it and prevent it.
Yeah. I tell my clients, I'm like, and myself, I'm like, let's manage it so well that it feels like it's gone.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Right? Because like it'll be there, but like if I can manage it so well, like as long as I can live my day-to-day life and my quality of life improves,
Yeah.
that's okay. And the other thing I tell my clients is like we want to do so well that when your flare-up comes back, it's small and it's a shorter duration.
Yeah.
That you can bounce back quicker. When we don't work on our bodies and our mental health, the flare-ups feel like it's drawn out, it feels like it's longer, it feels like it's frequent. So ultimately, for myself and my clients, I say, hey, let's do the thing so we can decrease the amount of flare-ups you get in a year and we can decrease the duration of like how long it lasts. So that way you feel like you're eczema free, right? So
No, I love that. I'm curious, how long did it take you to realize these things and the patterns with helping people, like treat people with their eczema?
for myself, it's been my whole life. Like I'm learning everything every day.
Yeah.
I'm learning about, different things. But yeah, it took me at least 20, 25 years to just like go
Yeah.
through the motions, different treatments, different diets. Like I went vegan for a year and a half because I was like, okay,
Yep.
vegan
Did
is
that too.
gonna cure me. And I did it for a year and a half, and then I was like, you know what? I think I got everything I could out of it.
Yes.
Um, I stopped seeing benefits for my skin at least. So
Yes.
I was like, let me add back in chicken, let me add back in fish. Because for some people, I learned that when you eat meat, you will feel grounded.
Yes.
I think it's in Ayurveda where they say,
Yeah, I was
or
gonna say it's a spiritual thing.
yeah, they're like some people if you're tend to be more anxious or like, I don't know what the word is, but like if you're a little bit more anxious and free flowing, if
Yes.
you don't have food that ground you, like you'll feel
Yes.
more anxious. So I was
Yeah.
like, oh, that's interesting. So I'm like, let me add back chicken, let me add back fish, and I actually felt a little bit better, a lot better than not having any animal protein. So,
Yeah.
you have to go through your experiment and find the balance for you.
Yeah. No, you actually that was beautiful said because it is so true. I did the same thing. I went vegan. I didn't want to eat any of the meat because I was like, oh, it's so bad. Da 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 da. Maybe I should just go very simple. And I
Yeah,
realized like it didn't fit well with me. I felt
yeah,
very much like you said, airy, up in the
yeah, Erie, that's
clouds,
the word.
very
Yeah, yeah,
mental. And I was just like, no, I think I really need to go back to eating meat. And then I
yeah,
watched something and I read something, and I think it was part of Ayurvedic too.
yeah,
And it said, yeah, meat, it helps ground you back
yeah,
to like the stable kind of conscious person. So when I had it, I was like, oh my God, I feel amazing. So no offense, anyone, please don't take offense to it. But it's just that
yeah,
I did notice that difference there that, yes, if you eat certain foods, it's meant for
mhm,
that certain time. So even now, sometimes I do just for one day only eat plants, only eat
yeah,
plant-based foods, just
yeah,
lettuce and whole foods and vegetables just because it does make me feel more clear. Like I feel like,
yeah,
that light just passes through me. And then
yeah,
there's times where I'll just add a splash of that meat in there and I
yeah,
just feel like Like, you
Okay.
just
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
you come down
Follow
to
through
earth.
with it. Yeah. And what I did was after adding back in meat, I was like conscious about the quality of it.
Yeah,
So you have to invest in the organic meat, pasture raised, free range, wild caught fish. So I felt consciously a little bit better eating it because I'm like, okay,
yeah,
it's not as, you know, raised bad and fed bad. So that
yeah.
made me feel better adding meat back in.
Yeah, because I think that's the concern a lot of people have is that, they want to eat animal proteins or animal foods and so
Mm,
forth, but they're just like, look how bad it is, and they're just ripping apart. I do not disagree. I
yeah.
don't disagree that there is a very major bipolar difference between the two different qualities. So
Yeah.
now, I'm getting them individually freezer packed, and so forth. I just make sure that they're coming from a better source because I do agree if you're not eating it from the right source, you're eating some jacked up chicken.
Yeah.
you know, whatever he's going through, you're getting that in there. So
Yeah.
so you want to make sure that you're eating something that feels peaceful. They came
Yeah.
from a peaceful place. So then
Exactly.
that way when you're taking in that energy, you're coming and you're feeling grounded, but you're feeling that peacefulness because there's still that spiritual connection that I look at where when you're eating certain foods, they have
Mm,
to be in a good place. It shouldn't feel like
yeah.
they got slaughtered because then all of a sudden you eat that, you feel like you're getting slaughtered at
Yeah.
work and something like that. So I
Yeah.
look at it from that spiritual perspective too.
Yeah, no, and you're right. I read somewhere, I don't know if it was like an article or somewhere or research, but they say the way the meat was slaughtered, because they're in like a fear state, a
Yeah.
panic state, you actually will take on that as well. I was like, oh,
Yes.
that's very interesting. So, yeah, you're right. There is a spiritual connection to the food and how we eat it and how it's made and processed and given to us.
Yeah, because I feel like if we look at it as like I think of like Lion King, the circle of life. That you have to eat things in a certain way and understand there's still a connection that's passing down from thing to thing to thing to thing. And if there's a sentient being in plants, imagine when we're eating the food and the way that they've been cut, slaughtered, or
Mm.
whatever, they're still holding on to that memory, that
Yeah,
that
those
it technology.
emotions.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
we're eating it. So I just feel like
yeah,
sometimes people don't take that extra step of thinking about that. They just think of like
yeah,
it's meat, and it's like no, it's not. No.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So now, in terms of helping people build that sustainable kind of that post-care sustainability,
Yeah.
again, they're not fully going to be utilizing your services for that long term after, obviously, when they
Mhm.
feel they're at that point of their connection to what is healed. How do you help them just kind of build that sustainable kind of supplement to nutrition
Yeah.
lifestyle that supports their eczema?
Yeah, so I tell all my clients, and even for myself, I'm like, start with one thing that you really want to focus on, whether it's with me or, whether you work with somebody else or by yourself. It's like, if you want to cut out sugar, which is, I think, the hardest thing, it's like,
Yes.
start slow. Some people can do cold turkey, but most of us, like, we are gonna crash. Our body will crave it because we've given it to it for so long, and then our brains will also crave it because we're also
Yeah.
hooked on it. It's almost like a drug. So I
Yes.
tell people, hey, cut it out. If you've had it every day, have it every other day for like a month or two,
Yes.
and then the second month, have it like every 2 days. Because if you cut out for like a week, you're gonna be itching, like physically and mentally, like I
Yeah.
want to hit, and that's what's
Like,
gonna
oh
drive
God.
you. Yeah, right. And then you're gonna feel crap about yourself for failing and not sticking to your habit. So I tell my clients just make smaller goals that are attainable. Don't try to cut out things, cold turkey. Like bake it into your lifestyle of like, oh, I'm gonna reduce it, or have designated days like yourself. This is a vegetarian day. This is a meat day. So your brain knows, okay, today just one day.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna have this food. In that sense, yeah, food wise, I would say take it slow. Choose one habit you really want to build, and focus on that. In terms of lifestyle stuff, I find that there's a lot of lists out there and social media saying, hey, top 10, stress buster activities and
Yeah.
top 50 stuff. And, there's a whole meditation and ice bath, craze going on. And everybody's trying to try it, which is great. But I think we need to experiment what works for us. I think it's okay to try those things. Like, try journaling, try reading, meditation, try everything, but then you have to also ask yourself what works for my lifestyle, what naturally fits with my day to day, so that way I can make it a routine. Right?
Yeah.
Like if ice bath is hard for you and you really want to make it work, there's gonna be some friction there, right?
Yeah.
So it's just like, hey, maybe I can just go for a 10-minute walk. That calms me down. So it's finding things that really you like and enjoy and you can bake into your lifestyle rather than forcing something that, you know, is the new trend that people are promoting, selling products and things like that.
Yeah, I so on that same thing. Like there's such a there's such a hype on like trying to
Wow,
have
yes.
quick fixes, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And that's the problem when it comes to skincare. Things are not quick fix. It's a
Yeah.
process. It takes its time. So when I see people that are like, "Oh, I'm just going to do this juice cleanse." And I'm like, "Okay, good luck with that. That is definitely not going to help you. That's
Yeah.
just sugar." And then there's like, "Okay, I'm just going to do a whole bunch of like the cold shower or the ice bath." Like I don't get me wrong, I've been doing cold showering for
Nice.
a very, very long time. So I didn't just do it and then I'm like, I'm a master at it. There's like,
Right.
it takes time to kind of
Yeah.
build up that tolerance to it. And then once you do, you kind of just feel like, okay, this is nothing. I just do this on
Yeah.
a regular basis. But I think
Exactly.
a lot of people need to understand for that long-term sustainability that we're talking about, whatever they're trying to add into their lifestyle, like you said,
Mhm.
bake it in. I love that word. It's like it needs to take its time, and then you also have to feel grounded in it, feel
Yeah.
like you understand it and understand what's the purpose of it versus like, oh, well, they said to do it, let me do it.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
they've been probably doing it for so long, right? So for them,
Yeah.
it's second nature, but for us, it's like, I don't know what the heck that I'm doing. So it's
Exactly.
really is important for people to kind of take their time and put things in one step at a time, but not like 50 million items
Yes.
all at one time and
Once.
think something's got to
No,
give.
exactly. No, 100%. You said it well. Like, I think we try, and I think it's because we're in a lot of pain, at least for eczema and TSW. We're in so much pain, our brain is trying to get a way out as quick as possible. So it's like, I'm gonna throw everything, whatever sticks, sticks, but then nothing sticks because we haven't given it enough time to actually work. So I think it's important for us to recognize, hey, our brain is trying to get out of this pain. So it wants to do everything it can, but then we have to kind of like talk ourselves out of it and be like, hey, I'm going to give this 30 days. I'm going to try journaling for 30 days. Let's see what happens. I'm going to try a cold bath for 30 days. And if it
Yeah.
works, it works. If not, I'm going to try something else rather than doing 100 things at once.
Yeah, because at the same time, though, it's like, what do you even know what worked and what didn't? If you did like
Exactly.
15, which one worked? And you're like, oh, I think it was the journaling. And meanwhile, it wasn't, it wasn't even close
Exactly.
to the journaling. So they're like writing forever. They're like, it didn't help in me. So it's true. Like you have to kind of see out of the 10, choose two, work that
Yeah.
one in, see how they both work. If they worked, awesome, and then to add the other two. Like it's a slow and steady process, but it truly is implementing it. Because I did a 30-day challenge for myself where I just was like, let's try different things that help me kind of
Hmm.
help with my overall like my anxiety that I was having at the time. And I
Yeah.
didn't realize certain things just really, really helped me kind of just stay away from going in the gutter of my thoughts.
Nice.
And it was true. I did it for 30 days and I liked it. And I'm like, okay, which one am I going to extract?
Okay.
And then
Nice.
just
Yeah.
continue on with it. And
Yeah.
it really does help. Like I was doing a lot more different breath works at nighttime, tapping. I was doing that too. And I was
Nice.
just like,
Yeah.
these are amazing things.
Awesome. So for you tapping and like what about breath work? Was it like a quick 2-minute meditation or like 10 deep breaths? What
It
worked for you?
was, so there was two different types. I did
Okay.
box breathing in the morning,
Okay.
so then that way it centered myself. But I
Nice.
did, it's more of like a Kundalini breathing breath work at nighttime. So I was saying Om Mani Padme Hum, but I was
Oh,
doing certain breaths a certain type of way at nighttime for 30 minutes. And that's what kind of allowed me to get into a trance to get to sleep. So I
right.
would just like
Okay.
fall back into my bed and I would get to sleep and it helped quite a bit.
Awesome.
I underestimated it.
Yeah, nice. And exactly like because that was probably on one of like the top 10 lists, but if you didn't try it and experiment for long enough, you would not
Yeah.
have realized the benefits. So awesome.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's why some people need to look at sometimes the most simplest things are the best things versus like the extreme of it. And they're just like, it didn't help my skin. Yeah, because you went high your cortisols. That's what you did.
Really true.
Yeah, so it's crazy about that. Well, before we wrap up, I have a couple questions that would
Yeah.
just what I wanted to ask myself and then also
Yeah.
for the viewers. What are two or three supplements that people can start taking that would bring them on the right track or start to help ease the pain or the relief that they're looking for?
Yeah, so I will say this. So vitamin D is a good one. It's generally good for your overall health, your immune system. Vitamin C is also good because it's going to repair your skin.
Okay.
It's going to reduce inflammation. It's going to help you produce collagen, and it's also almost like an antihistamine. So it can help with
Okay.
itching. And the other ones, even on my post, I don't know if I have done it, but I try not to give like too much specific
Yeah,
supplement advice because everybody's body is different. What you may need today may be different like two, three
tomorrow.
months from now.
Yeah.
Another one actually, I would say magnesium. So vitamin D, C, and magnesium.
Oh,
I
perfect.
do magnesium through Dead Sea Salt. I don't take it in a supplement as often. I
Okay.
like to do it in a bath, so like it relaxes me. I get to soak it in through my skin. So I would say those are three good starter supplements. But anything beyond that, um, I feel like I'd be doing a disservice if I said something specific, just because I don't want
Yeah.
them to do the wrong thing. And I see a lot of posts out there, like they say, take this, take chlorella, and it's like, sure, but like, is this what you need right now? I think another one going on a sea moss. There's a huge hype on sea moss. So
Yeah.
it's like, you really want to work with either ask yourself what you really need in this moment or work with a practitioner even if you get one appointment just so they can put you on the right path because I don't want, as we know, we've wasted so much money on supplements trying
Yeah.
stuff, right? And it's like we've already spent so much money on supplements. It's better to be more specific and strategic in your supplement strategy than to like, you know, look on Amazon and see, hey, this review says it helped me, I'm gonna try
Yep.
it. Right? Because I've been there. I've gone on Amazon, typed in like supplements, or I've gone on, blogs and seen what people have done. And I'll look at reviews on the product and someone's like, it worked. Someone said it didn't work. And then
Yep.
I'm hoping my entire dream is in the supplement to cure my eczema, but it doesn't. Right?
Yeah.
So,
Thank
yeah.
you though for saying being honest about it because it is
Yeah.
true. Like, we again, people will read this or watch this and be like, "Oh my gosh, he told me to get vitamin D. Whoa, go and get a
Yeah.
whole bunch." And we're like, "Sweetheart, it's not in that way. We're saying it helps, but it doesn't mean it's the cure for it."
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
good that you're saying that and being honest because I think people one don't look at it from that perspective. They just think there's some one all be all. And
Yeah.
two, the ones that you're mentioning are things that people should have on a foundation. That's what you should have on a regular basis regardless. So if you're
Yeah.
not taking that, then that's an indicator you should take that, and
Yeah.
that might actually alleviate one of the some of the symptoms that they're feeling too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and yeah, I was gonna say something. I lost my train of thought, but supplement is like I said. If I say to take vitamin D, if your nutrition is not right or your mental health is like you're still very anxious, you're very stressed out, vitamin D can only do so much, right?
Yes.
So, and I've been there too. I've gone on like top five supplement for eczema. I've tried all of them, not realizing that, like you said, it's a puzzle. There's two, three things that factor, and when you
Yes.
combine supplements, nutrition, and mental health, that's what will really unlock you to heal to the next level.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for saying that because
Yeah,
it is true. There is certain things that will help, but
yeah,
there is certain things that are the foundation, the core that should be implemented first before going on the supplement train because again, if people are eating and consuming the things that they should not be consuming,
hmm,
it's a dead end. It's just not going to go anywhere. And I think a lot of people that have eczema are in denial. They don't want to take inventory of their life. Sometimes they think that, everything is okay. Like, what else can I do? It
yeah,
shouldn't be stressed. But
yeah,
it's just like, yeah, I think it
yeah,
is. I think
yeah,
you're snapping. And people don't really look at it as sometimes low chronic grade stress is
Yeah.
the leading factor to half of the things that people have ailments for. And
Yeah.
it's just because they're just not thinking that that constant thought is constantly bringing them to that point where it's just, haywire on their body. So, people
Yeah.
just don't really take inventory to it because I think we live in a world where we're like, it's okay, no problem, just let it go. No big deal.
Yeah.
Let's start it again tomorrow.
It's true. Even me, it took me a while to like take inventory of my stuff because, when you grow back then, whatever, 15, 20 years ago when I was a kid, your doctor doesn't really tell you about, hey, this kid is stressed out about something, maybe it's causing eczema. So you grow up like that thinking, oh, it
Yeah.
has nothing to do with your emotions and thoughts. And then you're at a point where like, maybe I need to explore this. So, you know, I don't blame eczema people and us for not looking into it sooner because we're already dealing with a lot of emotions and trauma and self-image and self-esteem issues. So I think it's fair that it's delayed, but hopefully this podcast and us inspire them to like process your emotions, write it out. I tell my clients if you're worried about writing it out, like in case someone sees your thoughts, do a voice note, talk it out
Yeah.
as if you're talking to a friend, and then just delete it. So that way, at least energetically, whatever has been on your mind is just out, and then
Yeah.
you can just kind of move on. It's stuff that um, ruminate and fester in your mind is what's holding you back from healing as well.
Yeah, no, I was afraid of vocalizing it. Like I love talking. I'm a talkative person. I just enjoy
Yeah.
it. But when it comes to releasing my thoughts, I love writing it. I've been a
Nice. Yeah.
person that journaled from wow, I'm actually surprised. I could fill a library with the amount of books that I have of my thoughts. But I felt like sometimes it wasn't always enough. Like I could always process it, and I'm looking at it, but I felt like I had to like speak it and verbalize it out there because what I'm talking about in my book or what I'm writing about, it's not really doing anyone any service if I'm just writing about it in the book. So that's why I started the podcast because I wanted to
Nice.
be able to vocalize and have conversations like this with other people and say things out loud where people it could help other people, it could
Yeah.
benefit them. And I made discoveries when I had a podcast with Mahak last week or 2 weeks ago, and we made a discovery just sitting there talking. I was just like, see what I mean? Like if I'm writing about it, it's only for me. And I'm not talking about it. Whereas if I'm talking to other people, at
Yeah.
least this is a way for people to resonate and to understand and be like, oh my God, I understand that too. It might be a discovery for you as well or for myself. But I find because we are in this world where it's about just speaking and getting it out there, I
Mhm.
find, yeah, writing is great for someone that wants to hold on to it personally because they don't
Yeah.
want it out in the open. But if you're a person that wants to talk about it, put it
Yeah.
on your phone, record it because it
Yeah.
just it does need to come out.
Exactly. And that's how I started my journey as well. I was like, I need to blog, I need to write this out and help people what I did. And the blogging turned into coaching, and here we are.
Yeah, see, and I love that. I really, really love that, Kusha, because what you talk about is so necessary right now because of the fact people are so into supplements and
Mhm.
it could go very wrong. It really could go very wrong.
Yeah.
They'll be like me and have like 10 bottles and be like, okay, which one do I take? And versus, and I did my research because I was already taking certain supplements, but
Right.
it's like certain ones I needed and I realized it helped. But I feel like someone that's like a novice, they don't know what the heck they're doing. And
Yeah.
they are just like, well, I read this blog that said the top 20,
Yeah.
top 10. and, then they're,
Yeah.
and they're like walking home with like a whole bunch. We're like, okay, let's take them one at a time. And then we're like, did you eat yet? They're like, no, I got the supplement. So it's like, no, we what you're doing is so necessary because it's a supplement craze right now.
Yeah, yeah. And to add on, it's like if you do take 10 supplements and you feel better, then you have to ask yourself what supplement worked, and we don't know. What do you stop
Eeny,
taking,
meeny,
right?
miny, moe.
So that's why with my clients and myself, I'm like 1 to 3 max, maybe 5 on a rare occasion, depending on how bad it is, but 1 to 3 max, so we can really say this is what worked, and then go from there.
Yeah, it's that slow implementation. The baking. I love what you're saying with the baking word. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna use that from now. I'm like,
Go for it. Go for
bake
it.
this
Yeah.
in. Well, I want to let you go because I know, time is of the essence. And again, I know you have people that you're helping out. So I have a closing tradition. I always ask people these two questions. So I want to ask you, what does self-care mean to you?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think for me, on my journey, it's just like really putting yourself first. And that can look a lot of different ways, whether that's eating right, setting boundaries, going after what you want, speaking your mind. I think it's with eczema, we've been hiding ourselves to an extent, right, with the condition. So now it's like the self care is like, how can I take care of myself through food, through lifestyle, to saying no to things that you don't want to do, saying yes to more things that you want to do. So it's like it's a whole compass of things. But yeah, it's really putting yourself first. I would say like at the core of it, it's like put yourself first. Say no to the foods that you don't want to eat. Say no to things that you don't really find passion, and say yes to more things that really bring your joy and spark out. So you can not let your eczema hold you back.
Oh, great question right there. And I love that answer because it is very true. People that have eczema usually are hidden. They hide themselves. They don't want to go out. They don't want to do things. And it's very true. It's almost like this suffering in silence that it's sad, and people really need to realize that you're okay. Like,
Yeah.
if people have a broken leg and they're walking outside, I think you can walk outside too.
So,
You know,
but it's also
and I'll take
working.
that myself. I had
Yeah.
to take that advice myself. I was
Yeah.
like, I'm not going nowhere. I don't want no
Yeah.
one to see me. And I
Exactly.
realized, like, no, Makisha, you need to go outside. Like, you need to
Yeah.
get some air for goodness sakes, and you need to
Yeah.
realize it's not your fault.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, half the times we have
Exactly.
eczema, it's not really our fault. It's because of the other things that kind of trigger us outside of us. So,
Yeah.
um,
Well said.
yeah. All right. So my last question is, what do you do for your self-care? What is your self-care regimen, and
Ooh.
what do you use for your self-care?
Yeah. I would say it fluctuates between how I'm feeling the month and the week, but I really find joy in dead sea salt baths. Something about the warm water and the minerals. I just like to, relax in there. Whether it's read a book or play a game or just like close my eyes, that really grounds me. Um,
Good.
I experiment with yoga, and like I always go back to it. I'm not always the best at going to classes, but when I do go to a class, I feel good about it.
Yeah.
Because it's a slow but um, restorative type exercise. So I get to move my body, move my lymphatic system, but it's not like taxing on my body. So I really
Yes.
like that. I do love working out when I get a chance to. Another self-care, I would say, I enjoy acupuncture. So when I do get a flare up, and nutrition and on top of the supplements, I would go do an acupuncture session or two. I find that for myself, it just really helps me calm down and activate my rest and digest system. So I would say
Okay.
that. Dead sea salt. What else? I think just finding things that I really enjoy doing on my own terms and my own time, that is what actually helps me like just kind of chill out. Like if I'm super stressed, I just need to watch an episode or two of a TV show with some of my favorite foods and just kind of chill, or spending time with friends and family. It just really gets me out of my head and out of my space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that sounds good. And honestly, two out of actually no, all three of them I do. I do all three of them. I
Yeah.
love Dead Sea Salt bath. Like I love baths. I think people
Yeah.
underestimate the power of baths. I
Yeah.
think we're so used to just like shower quick and go that they don't
Oh yeah.
realize like baths are so good for their skin and just their mental health, and just kind of decompressing that it helps in so many different ways. But people are so quick to the just gotta get in, gotta get out. And I'm just
Yeah.
like,
Get out.
no.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
swim. Like I feel like when I have my own bigger place, I'm
Yeah.
gonna have a very big bathtub.
Yes.
I'm
Just
like,
stretch your
do you have
legs
a
out.
bigger size? That's the standard size. Sorry, I need a bigger size. Like I need
Uh,
I need a
that's
big one because
awesome.
I just
I love
love
that.
them. Even like hot springs, right? Like
Yeah.
anytime I go away on vacation, and if it might be a place where they have hot springs, I try to find those. Those things were
Yeah.
amazing.
Nice. I know. It just makes me, yeah, relax. It really helps me decompress, like you said.
Yeah, no, it's a good thing. So, well, thank you so much, Kishuk, for coming on. I would love to have you again because I feel like
Yes.
this needs to have like a follow-up conversation for
Uh,
people because I know there's gonna be some people like, okay, talk to more about the supplement stuff because we're in that era right now. But I
yeah.
really appreciate you coming on. It was great talking with you.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your journey, and I'd love to be back.
Yeah. And please, really quickly, let everyone know where they can find you, your social media,
Yeah.
all of those things. I will put them in the show notes, but I definitely want you
Okay.
to let people know right now.
Yeah, so my website, it's a blog, everythingeczema.ca. So that's where my website is, and my Instagram is everything_eczema. Yeah, DM me. I'm happy to help, and if you have any questions, yeah, reach out.
Thank you so much, Kashuk. It was great
Thank
talking
you
with you.
again. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Skin Deep podcast. Don't forget to download your free guide to our 10 hacks to great skin. Just check the link in our bio. I look forward to seeing you in our next episode. Have an amazing day, everyone, and enjoy your self-care Sunday.